To this day, Sephiroth remains as one of video gaming's most recognisable antagonists. His silver hair, long black coat, imposing size and his signature 7-foot length katana sends a sense of fear down the spines of anyone who would dare stand in his way. Many fans consider Sephiroth to be the greatest villain throughout the whole of the Final Fantasy franchise, and in this miniseries I am delving into his story. So I ask the question, is Sephiroth your favourite Final Fantasy baddie? Let us know in the comments, and if you do enjoy this video, please subscribe to the FuzzfingerGaming channel and hit the like button. In the previous episode, which for your convenience I'm going to link in the description should you have missed that one, we looked at Sephiroth's origins that led to his special birth. As before, please be warned that this episode is going to be containing massive Final Fantasy VII story spoilers, and if you've not played then you may be interested in watching my complete playthrough of the game, which I've also linked for you in the video description. Anyway, after Sephiroth was adopted by Shinra, it became clear to them quite quickly that he was not going to be useful in finding the Promised Land, a legendary place filled with lifestream. Since Sephiroth was not himself a Cetra, he was never actually able to commune with the planet. Now this frustrated the young boy as he began to grow up, since it was certainly obvious that there was something unique about him, yet he had not been told of the experiments performed on him before his birth. And so, Shinra began to raise Sephiroth with an alternative purpose in mind. They trained him as a super soldier and used him as a powerful, militarised weapon that could easily destroy any foe. Final Fantasy VII's main protagonist Cloud Strife tells his comrades, and the player by extension of course, that Sephiroth's strength is unreal. He is far stronger in reality than any story you might have heard about him. The powerheads within Shinra also recognised this fact, and not being happy that Sephiroth was their sole superhuman fighter, they got to work on creating some more. They started empowering some of their already strongest warriors by injecting them with Genova cells and exposing them to small amounts of Mako energy harvested from the planet. Shinra went on to form an elite fighting force known as Soldier, that's typed in all capital letters, in order to contain their new enhanced members. However, despite their gifted powers, these new Soldier members never came close to the strength of Sephiroth, who remained Shinra's prize success story. It was during this same period of time that Shinra's energy department had been busy developing and building Mako reactors all over the planet. These reactors were manufactured to extract the lifestream from within Gaia and refine it into an efficient energy source. Now the rest of the company's other projects were able to be funded due to Shinra's monopoly in the electricity market. However, these reactors were heavily guarded and ruthlessly protected by Shinra's troops. Many citizens came to despise them and began to develop animosity towards the company, and this was particularly evident on the western continent of Wutai, where Shinra was planning to build their next reactor. When all was said and done, Wutai was simply not willing to accommodate Shinra and refused permission for them to build their new reactor in the region. The Shinra company were not prepared to accept no for an answer, and since they now had a supreme military force at their disposal, they entered into war with Wutai. Sadly, for Wutai anyway, they never really stood a chance. Shinra had the resources and the technology, they had Soldier, and of course they had Sephiroth. Many details of this war are not really known, but it is certain that Soldier led the charge for Shinra, with Sephiroth making quick waste of the enemy. Now, despite a decisive victory in this conflict for Shinra, they never went ahead with the building of their new reactor, and although several theories attempt to explain why this may be the case, the reasons for this remain factually unknown. What can be known is that Shinra had been trying hard to keep their Soldier program secretive and under wraps, but due to the power of Sephiroth displayed through the Wutai War, his immense power, this just simply was not possible any longer. Even the strongest warriors in Soldier First Class were inspired by the greatness of Sephiroth, and children all over the world grew up with aspirations of joining Soldier so that they too could be like him. As for Sephiroth himself, well, he was not seemingly affected by his newfound celebrity status. He simply desired to focus on doing his job well, and he did his best to continue acting professionally at all times. Although willing to give the odd photograph for members of the general public, he would also tend to get a little bit visibly annoyed when other Shinra soldiers got starstruck in his presence. And so Sephiroth continued to operate as a member of Soldier First Class, and he developed several loyal comrades along the way. One of these was a man known as Zack Fair. A few more years pass, and after several successful assignments together, Sephiroth decides that he has had enough and wants to retire from his work for Shinra. He speaks with Zack and informs him that the next mission will be their final time working together. Incidentally, Zack is a non-playable character in Final Fantasy VII, but he is the main protagonist in its PlayStation Portable exclusive prequel, Crisis Core. And so, Sephiroth and Zack begin their final mission together, along with a couple of Shinra soldiers, and nothing really seems to be out of the ordinary. At least not yet. And at least in the context of the work they do for Soldier, which I'm sure isn't normal by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, they've been briefed about reported sightings of hostile monsters around the Mako reactor at Nibelheim, who are tormenting the townsfolk, and their objective is to go and investigate. Once they arrive in Nibelheim, Sephiroth shares with Zack that his mother's name was Genova, but that she died giving birth to him. Now this demonstrates that even as Sephiroth begins his final mission for Shinra, he still remains unaware of his true origins and of the nature of the alien entity known as Genova. However, all of this is about to change when Sephiroth discovers a bombshell piece of information regarding his mother. You see, once Sephiroth enters the reactor at Nibelheim, he first discovers that it is also serving as a secret location for some of Shinra's sickest experiments. Now, whereas normal members of Soldier are subjected to small amounts of Mako, enough to make their eyes glow at least, Sephiroth now discovers a selection of pods in the reactor containing once human subjects that are now literally being covered in a condensed form of Mako. These subjects have now mutated away from their original humanity and now exist in grotesque, monstrous forms, subject to a life of agonising pain and sending them spiralling into total and abject madness. Now at this sight, Sephiroth begins to think, hang on, something's going on here, and starts recalling his own childhood. Now realising that much of the reasoning behind his own strength has never actually been revealed to him, he immediately begins rationalising whether he too was the result of some similar vicious experiments. Now at this point, Sephiroth approaches a nearby chamber that is simply labelled with the name Genova. He is shocked to discover another non-human creature inside. This one, however, is different from the others, and so he begins to consider that his own birth mother was not actually human at all. As for what Sephiroth does next, well, we're going to save that for the next episode, but I really do hope you folks are enjoying this series so far, and if so, please do hit the like button to show me your support. What do you think of Sephiroth as Final Fantasy VII's villain? Why not let us know in the comments section, and I look forward to being back with you again soon.